Hello you absolute legends. Zelda 2, the much less attractive sibling to the original Legend of Zelda. First released in Japan in 1987, the gameplay in Zelda 2 was a substantial departure from the first game in the series. The sequel now focused primarily on side-scrolling action rather than a top-down view, a change that makes it a rather unique entry. Anyone who has played Zelda 2 knows that this game is a beast. The combat is insanely difficult, and a few of the puzzles are beyond cryptic. When combined with the fact that you go back to the start every time you die, this makes progress extremely tedious and frustrating. Anyone who has legitimately completed this game back in its heyday deserves an immense amount of credit. Obviously, kids were a lot more patient with their games in the 80s due to being less spoilt with gaming options, so it's hard to appreciate just how annoying the game was to play back then. But playing it now, oof, it's a real struggle. Pretty early on, I succumbed to using save states, or else it probably would have taken me months to beat. However, as is the case with many games, if you know exactly how it works, if you know the intricate details of how enemies are programmed, you can become so good that even a game like Zelda 2 becomes easy. And when it comes to breaking open a game's mechanics, there is no community that does it better than speedrunners. Recently, the speedrunner Slackinator became the first person to beat Zelda 2 in under 16 minutes, which at first glance doesn't even seem possible. Aside from the way speedrunners casually and easily dispense of enemies that would take me 100 tries to kill, what amazed me about this speedrun is the way some very simple inputs can completely break the game, resulting in gameplay that is utterly confusing and unrecognizable. In this video, we will take a look at the famous healer glitch, a glitch that requires only 2 inputs but allows speedrunners to do things that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. I really hope you enjoy. Now legends, Zelda 2 speedruns might be completely broken, but you know what isn't broken? This video's sponsor, Bespoke Post. Bespoke is a monthly membership club which delivers boxes containing a wide selection of really interesting and useful products. Every month, they will send you something new, and their lineup is constantly changing, so there will always be new things to try. Before your box is shipped, you can preview it and decide if you want to keep it, swap it for something else, or skip the month entirely for no charge. Bespoke sent me the Stealth Box, which contains a great knife for everyday use around the home. The Stealth Box also contains a money clip, a heavy-duty capsule, and a multi-purpose pen, which is also a screwdriver, ruler, and level. I also chose the Weekender bag, which I use when I go on trips with the family, but I have to say it's also just fun to browse boxes and choose which one you want to receive next. Every box is around $70 in retail value, but you only pay a fraction of the price. And to get 20% off your first box, go to the link in the description and enter KarlJobs20 at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/KarlJobs20. Like most adventure games, the world of Hyrule is partitioned by various obstacles and barriers that upon entering the world, Link cannot overcome. In Zelda 2, we have such barriers as boulders, water, and even a devil that only moves when Link plays a flute. In speedruns, players will often find as many ways as possible to get around these obstacles without having to find the requisite item that is usually needed. Obviously, the less items you collect, the faster you can beat the game. Aside from the overworld obstacles, the final dungeon, the Great Palace, is also sealed off by a force field that only dissipates when you have placed a crystal in each of the previous 6 dungeons. So the intended way to progress through the game is to visit towns to attain spells and visit dungeons to collect the required items and place crystals. Only then can you enter the final palace, defeat the final boss, and attain the Triforce. The fastest anyone has completed the game in the conventional way, without any crazy glitches, is 48 minutes and 46 seconds, achieved by Dude in 2017, which honestly is already extremely impressive. This speedrun still does skip some items though, as not all of them are absolutely essential to reach the end. For example, one of the first items you're supposed to collect is the candle, which lights up dark caves allowing you to see. This is a requirement for almost every player, but for the seasoned speedrunner who has memorized the position of every single enemy, they can literally play in the dark, so they ignore the candle to save time. Though skipping the candle isn't a glitch, it's just being so good that you don't need it. With glitches, you can skip even more items, and not only that, you can skip needing to place a crystal in each palace. This is why the most recent world record of 15 minutes and 59 seconds achieved by Slackinator earlier this month is so short, and the main weapon the any % speedrunners have is the healer glitch. The healer glitch is used twice in the speedrun, and for two very different reasons. The first time happens at the very beginning. It's literally the first thing they do. From the starting castle, they head to the nearest town of Roru, and immediately go to the healer's house. Normally, after you speak with the healer, she will open the door and allow Link to enter. Once inside, Link's health is restored and he automatically comes back out of the house. The door to the healer's house has a special property, and when Link goes through it, it doesn't behave like a regular door would. Normally, when you enter a door, it will take Link to a different location. Where it takes Link is defined by a specific value, but that value isn't assigned to the door, but rather the area the door is in. If we take a look at the first area in the town of Roru, we can see that it's divided into 4 pages. The information pertaining to where a door may take Link is based on the page the door is located in. So for example, we can see there is a usable door on page 1, and page 1 stores information that tells the game to take Link to scene 28 when he uses a door within that page. The interesting thing is that pages that have no usable doors in them still contain information about where to take Link in the event that he does use a door. Because the developers didn't assign a particular value, this value is automatically set as the default number, which is scene 00. Scene 00 isn't a place you can reach in normal play, but it is a real place that definitely exists, and the healer glitch is the way we get there. Getting back to the healer door, I mentioned before this door is special. Technically it's the same as any other door, but what actually happens is that after you speak with the healer, she changes the way the door works. So instead of taking you to a different scene, it will just keep you in the same scene and refill your health. However, with frame-perfect timing, it's possible to interrupt this process and stop the healer from changing the door properties. The glitch requires very specific timing, and requires you to talk to the healer twice, both at frame-perfect times. The first time is the setup, and the second time is the last possible frame before she opens the door. If done correctly, she will turn around and walk up and away from the door, and the door will open. Because her process of changing the door's properties was interrupted, the door will act like any other door, and will take Link to a different scene. One thing I have to stress is that these inputs really are frame perfect. I practiced for around 30 minutes, redoing them over and over again, and I still absolutely suck. I couldn't imagine being able to consistently do it first try, but speedrunners will spend hours upon hours practicing this 2-second glitch over and over again to get it as consistently as possible. The world record does the glitch 2 times during the run, both perfectly, and this is on top of a ton of other frame-perfect movements throughout the run. And if you miss this glitch, it's a massive time loss. The healer door is located on page 0, which wasn't assigned a particular value, and is therefore set at 00. And scene 00 is a very special place. A very special place indeed. Welcome to Scene 00, lovingly known as Glitch Town. Glitch Town looks the same as the second area of the town of Roru, but it has a couple of quirks. We will cover it in more detail later, but all we have to know for now is that if we exit to the left, we appear back outside of the town of Roru. But if we exit to the right, we appear somewhere completely different, which is at King's Tomb. This happens because of the way the game tracks Link's location when he enters and exits towns. When Link enters a town, the game stores a value that tells the game where in the overworld Link was. Then, when Link exits a town, the game uses that value to place Link back on the overworld in that same location. There are exceptions though. For example, the town of Saria has 2 locations, to the north of the river and the south. If you leave the town from the right, you appear on the north side, and if you exit from the left, you appear on the south side. Instead of simply assigning each exit to a specific location, the game uses the stored value for where you entered from, and if it wants to put you somewhere else when you leave, it subtracts or adds to that value, which puts you at the next location on an internal list the game keeps track of. For whatever reason, Glitch Town has one such exit. Leaving to the left takes you back to the overworld where the game remembers you entered the town, which was technically Roru. But if you leave to the right, it subtracts from that stored value, which puts you at the next overworld location, which is King's Tomb. Warping to King's Tomb is awesome because it bypasses the boulders that were blocking your access, which allows you to take a much quicker path to get the hammer, saving a bunch of time. Now I want to quickly highlight another glitch that was implemented for the very first time in an actual run by Slackinator, and it gives you an idea about just how insane the record is. After appearing at King's Tomb, there is a bridge that Link needs to cross, which has two sections. By performing a very precise set of inputs, you can skip the first section. It's a trick called Link Feet, and I asked Slackinator himself to come on and demonstrate how it works.
Alright, so Link Feet. Link Feet is a trick that we use that allows us to skip some of the overworld tiles in the game. Essentially, we're tricking the game into thinking when we leave one side of the screen that we're actually leaving the other, and it allows us to skip over some of these tiles. And then to do that, we need to line ourselves up on the very last pixel before we leave a screen, but we also have to be on Link's last subpixel, which is what makes this trick so hard. Link has 16 subpixels, and these subpixels change depending on which direction Link is moving and how fast Link is moving. And if you've played Zelda 2 before, you may know that Link is very dynamic. He can speed up, he can slow down, and it's this acceleration and deceleration that make keeping track of subpixels so difficult, and the reason why this trick was always thought to be task only. But Frosted Pears and I have come up with a setup that allows us to do it and allows us to save about 8 seconds in the any % run. I'm going to walk you through the setup. I'm going to use save states because it's really tricky and I don't want to take all day to show you. But the first thing that we have to do is we have to enter the screen, and we want to be holding left and then get to full speed and then let go of the left input. Okay, so we've held left, got to full speed, let go of the input. Now we need to press the right input, but we can only press it for 1 frame. When you enter the screen, your subpixel is reset. By getting to full speed and allowing yourself to coast to a stop, we are at a known subpixel. We're going to alter that by pressing the right button for 1 frame. There it is. Now, this is probably the trickiest part. From here, we need to run to the right edge of the screen, and then we have to stab frame perfectly. If we stab 1 frame too late, we will exit. If we stab 1 frame too early, we're actually going to stop a full pixel too early. And that's what makes the setup so great, is the only way that we can stab and stop on the last pixel is if we are also on the last subpixel. All right, let's see how long it takes me. All right, that was a little early. All right, I got it there, but I think this bubble's gonna hit me. Okay, we're good. So I've got it right now, and you can tell because if I press the right input for 1 frame, I will immediately exit. That is because I am on the last subpixel as well. And now comes the magic. We're gonna press the right input for only 1 frame, followed directly on the next frame with a left input. That right input is going to hit the trigger and signal the game to exit. And then on the next frame, the game is going to ask the question, which way are you moving? And if we're holding left on that next frame, the game will think we're moving left and will actually not be on the right side of this tile, but will exit on the left. Let's see if I can do it. And there it is. That is Link Feet, aka Frosted Feet.
Okay, so after the first healer glitch, it's time to perform several fetch quests in order to collect the necessary spells and items to complete the game in the shortest time. So far, things seem relatively normal, but things are about to get strange. About midway through the run, it's time to perform the healer glitch again. So we head back to Roru and perform the glitch one more time. Once back in Glitch Town, we don't leave. Instead, we enter through the first door. The doors in Glitch Town work just like any other door, but because this isn't a real town, the pages that the doors are located in have not been assigned a value to take Link to a specific place. Therefore, the value that determines where to take Link if he does use a door is still set as the default value, which is scene 00, also known as Glitch Town. So when Link uses a door in Glitch Town, he gets sent to Glitch Town. This seems like a harmless loop, but oh boy, does it cause problems. And it's because of the way the game keeps track of Link's location when he uses doors. When Link enters a door, the game writes into memory the scene he was in when he entered the door. So once in the new scene, if Link leaves, it sends him back to the scene written into memory. So for example, if Link uses a door in the town of Roru, the game stores a value relating to Roru. So when he leaves the scene the door took him to, he will appear back in Roru. The game has a total of 2 slots available to store this information, which means that Link can enter one door from a town and then enter one more door from within that new scene, and the game will still keep track of where Link needs to be when he returns. This makes sense because there is nowhere in the game where Link can enter a door more than twice in a row without having to return. Well, except for Glitch Town. Glitch Town is unique in that you can keep entering a door forever without having to return. So the question becomes, what happens when you go through the door more than twice? What happens after you've used up the 2 available slots in memory? The common sense answer would be that the game just overrides the existing values within those 2 slots available, but that's not what happens. Instead, the game goes rogue, writing the values into places where it shouldn't. It overrides the code immediately after the code that's responsible for keeping track of doors. The code that is overwritten is the code that deals with how graphics are drawn, how enemies spawn, and how the screen scrolls. More specifically, it deals with how the game responds to Link's position. In the speedrun, players will enter the door a total of 5 times to get the desired result. After the second time, you can already see the graphics become disorientating. At this point, unless you know exactly what to do, the game is unplayable. The structures and the layout are still the same, but the graphics don't match at all. So from here on out, speedrunners need to rely on memory alone in order to navigate screens. After the 5th entry, players achieve what is called the scroll lock. This is where the screen will no longer scroll to the left once you hit page 1 of a scene. A scene can contain up to 4 pages, and normally, if you want to exit a scene to the left, you will run all the way over to page 0 where the screen stops scrolling. Page 0 contains the data for where to send Link when he leaves to the left of the screen. Page 1, however, usually doesn't contain an exit, and as we've discussed multiple times, when there hasn't been a specifically designated exit value, it's set as the default value. In towns, this default value is Glitch Town, but caves and palaces are different. In caves, the exit value affects where to place Link on the overworld, and when the default value is used, it sends Link to places you wouldn't expect. In order to get to the final palace, normally you would have to run through a very difficult section full of unavoidable encounters. But with Scroll Lock, players can use the default exit value in this cave here to exit straight to the cave right before the final palace. In palaces, the default exit value works differently again. Here, they will either send Link up or down one level inside the palace. This is because generally, Link will exit up or down using an elevator, or by falling down into a pit. So it does make sense that the default values relate to the way Link would normally enter and exit scenes in any given environment. When the scroll lock glitch is active, Link always enters a scene on page 0. So you'll notice that during the speedrun when players enter a scene, they will often scroll the screen to the right first and then exit to the left. What this does is moves the screen to page 1, and then when they leave to the left, the game uses the exit value for page 1 instead of page 0. They can then make use of the default exit values to go up or down, or to travel somewhere useful. Scroll Lock also allows runners to skip the barrier in the Great Palace, which negates the need to place crystals at every previous palace. Beyond understanding these basic concepts, the speedrun itself is so broken and garbled that it's honestly impossible to follow. It's extremely impressive that the current route was figured out at all, and it obviously needed a ton of trial and error to get it to work. On Speed Demo's archives, there is an awesome write-up by Neil Stevens from all the way back in 2014, where he goes over how the run was crafted and who was responsible. I will leave a link in the description for those who are interested in giving it a read. While the speedrun itself is rather broken, that doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, the new world record set by Slackinator is a masterpiece when it comes to execution. The healer glitch, something that requires multiple frame-perfect inputs, was done perfectly both times. This is on top of the link feet glitch, which is also just insane by itself. But then you've got the overall execution required to deal with enemies, play in the dark, and there's also crazy precise glitches I didn't even mention, like the Thunderbird skip. The Zelda 2 speedrun is a speedrun that gets more and more impressive the more you learn about it, and there's a good reason that Slackinator's reaction was as intense as it was.
I don't want to look. I don't want to look. Fucking did it! Oh my god! Oh! Oh my god, no way!
A huge thanks to Slackinator for coming on and explaining link feet, as well as helping me with the video. You might remember him from my Ninja Gaiden no-hit video as well, and as you can see, he continues to perform very impressive feats. I definitely recommend you go and follow him on Twitch and watch his streams. I will put a link in the description. Also, a massive thanks to Frosted Pears, who provided me with technical explanations and images. They have a website with some more interesting information, which I will also link. Now, if you remember last month, I hosted a Doom competition to try and beat my time of 36 seconds on the map Nuts. Congratulations to these 3 random winners, and congratulations to 4Shock Blast, who was the first to beat the world record with a time of 31 seconds. All winners will receive a cash prize. Also, a huge shout out to Deeper Jungle, who went on to get an insane run of 29 seconds, beating 4Shock Blast's new record by a full 2 seconds. Pretty crazy stuff, and thanks to everyone who entered. As always, thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.